All right. I think the opioids are a form of depopulation. 50,000 people have died last year from opioids. And fentanyl is not even like heroin. It's fucking crazy lethal. And it's a way to depopulate the rural America. If you go into cities, like my friends in Hollywood, when I lived there, you never ever knew anyone who died of heroin or opioids. It never happened. When you go into the country, when you are in a smaller town or you hang out with more country people, my friend Joe Guck has known 17 of his friends have died from opioids. 17 of his friends, because he's from Rochester, New York, and served in the Air Force, and he's just in that group that is so targeted for this, like vets and former like industrial cities that used to, have more wealth and now is kind of decaying, like Rochester, which is right near where I'm from. 17 of his friends have died from opioids. That's a depopulation. And to think that like people are stupid, that they don't know how they're pumping in shit into your community. And the CIA pumped crack into the black community in the 80s. I'm convinced that a lot of gangster rap was by the CIA. They had to break black people, break them, get them into a district. Black people did not used to be in the same hell that they are now in inner cities in America. Because we're now, the news cycle is obsessing over these fake pipe bombs, quote unquote. In the meantime, do you know how many people have died in Chicago from being shot, or LA, or Atlanta? They don't give a shit about human life. They care about control. So to break the black family, blacks were very Christian, and their crime rates were below Italians in the 20s and 30s and 40s. And they were more likely to be employed as teenagers, which is one of the reasons why labor unions had to come in, because black young males were more likely to work. And so they had to break them with labor unions. That was a racist policy to like start all this bullshit. They had to make sure that the niggers didn't get jobs. That's real. That's real American history. And so then you have the welfare state in the 60s come into play. And they would go door to door. Larry Elder's talked about this. Some of these people have talked about this that have gotten out of this, which is, they're basically the tributes of the Hunger Games that make it out of their district. That they would go door to door, and if there was an adult male father in the house, they didn't get money. They and by they I mean the government, economically incentivized broken homes and blacks. It didn't quite do the trick though. So what they do, they had to take Marvin Gaye and all that shit and make it about killing cops and fucking hoes and slinging crack and riding dirty. That came out of nowhere. Black music used to be like, just like doo-wop and shit. It was like soul. And before that, it was rock and jazz and blues. Blues is like, like Muddy Waters and shit. And then they replace it with Eazy-E, an AIDS queer with a fucking AK. It's like glorifying just gang banging and all this shit. You don't think that's by design? They know how to fucking promote these people. They know what music to promote. Like I remember, like there would be rap that wasn't gangster rap, like Diggable Plants and De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest and a bunch of this stuff that they weren't rapping about committing crimes, that never got the coverage and the distribution that Niggers with Attitudes did. NWA. I mean, that's almost out of a CIA think tank. That's like crazy. It's called Niggers with Attitudes. And it's like, yo, we're just rapping about how shit is. It's like, no, you're making shit like that. And because of these movements, they would take these communities and make them just shit. They incentivized the father to get out. And then they had all the music that the young children that are now being raised by abusive single moms, because a lot of single moms become abusive because they get overwhelmed. They don't know. They have like 5 kids. There's no dad to help discipline. They're trying to get money. They got all these different men coming in and out that are most likely doing some kind of abuse, and they're just hitting DeAndre. You shut up, DeAndre. Motherfucking DeAndre, you shut your mouth. And so then these kids, their epigenetics are triggered because violence triggers violence. Like if you're beaten as a kid like that, there's a really good chance you're going to recreate that. I faced abuse in my life, and it's like I know that feeling of like you get imprinted about how to like it's about rage, and it takes some time to get out. Oh, and Benjamin with the hard R's begging for the overlords to come and smite him. No, it's not that. It's not that at all. I don't want the overlords to smite me. I don't want to be banned. I like you guys. I like being able to do this every day. I will not change my speech because of nonsense. And the political correct stuff right now, like this Apu from The Simpsons is now banned from the show because of political correctness, right? You have to draw a line in the sand. We are now facing a generation where we will remember when you could speak freely and other people won't even know it ever happened. You know, someone being born right now, by the time they're my age, would think that of course no one ever says anything that isn't approved. And so there's two roads. You can take the easy road, the conservative road, and just go, imagine if, Homer Simpson, I do this on Instagram, I'll point it out, but I'm a comedian, you know, so I'm pointing out the hypocrisy. That's what comedians are supposed to do by trade. It's your job to seriously not comply. So I'm like, okay, Homer Simpson is a fat, degenerate, you know, idiot, alcoholic, white, you know, all the stereotypes of white males. And that doesn't get banned. So you do that, but you still comply, then you've done no one any service. Don't comply. I'm not running around saying we got to keep these niggers out of our schools like that. No, I'm not saying racist statements. I'm just not going to say N-word because the only way they win is compliance. That's the only way the districts start laying out. Like they do not have the power. They don't have the guns. They don't have the manpower. There's not a lot of these people in the Capitol. It requires the compliance of the civilians. That's why in the Hunger Games, it took one person to say no. That's the hero's journey. That's why they're getting rid of Christianity. The ultimate hero is Christ. That is the hero story. That is it. And then all these other stories are perversions or recreations of Christ's story. That's what it is. And so it took one person to say, I love my little sister more than I love myself and my own breath. And that one act of defiance took down the entire structure because all of it is based on your own self-censorship, your own kneeling. That's a fact. It takes one individual. Like we made a song that when Tommy Robinson got out of jail, he saw thousands of people singing it in the streets. That's one person with one person with one person with like you're a flock of eagles, you know, and that's all it takes. That isn't a, you know, Dave Smith texted me the video and he's like, man, I got chills watching this. It's like, you must feel, and I'm like, this is the reality. Yeah, I'm talented. Yeah, I'm a pretty smart dude. I'm pretty interesting to listen to, but I'm not that special. It's not like it's the individual is special. The individual is special. It's not about me because that's a way. False idol worship is a way to miss the story. It's not Owen Benjamin got all these people to sing. It's the individual did. And the empowerment of the individual is the real story. And that's what people are scared to understand, that it isn't me. It's the individual. And the ability to not kneel when told to kneel. And that's the whole story. It isn't about me. Because that's a way to misdirect away from truth. Is you take a person and you make it seem like they're just so special that it's just them. And it's not. And coming from a person that sang the song that was recreated in the streets of England when Tommy Robinson, I'm telling you from my mouth that wasn't because of me or my talents at all. And so that's very threatening to authoritarians. When you have someone selflessly explaining the blueprint, not saying, oh, buy that song. I've never made a penny. If that song sells, I want all of it to go to his legal fund, his family, all that shit. When people are capable of doing that, thinking in terms of ethics, nations, right and wrong, good and evil, the authoritarians crumble like dust because there's no way to control a people that act like that. you need to have people motivated by materialism, motivated by fear. Fear is the enemy. Fear is the enemy. You know, I fear for my children and stuff like that. I don't fear for myself at all, and that's straight up. I'm trying to get in shape so I last longer to be a father to my kids. I don't give a fuck if I die anymore, except if it wasn't for my family, and that's straight up truth. Like, I don't get scared of being shot or put in a gulag. I get scared of my kids. I get scared that my kids wouldn't have a father. Like, thinking about like when I'm gone too long, Walter spirals. It's like, imagine if I was dead. And that's a scary, scary individual for people, is like someone who truly is only alive for his family and to do good shit and to do whatever. It's like those people are not easily controlled. And so, you know, it's pretty intense. All right, what else I want to talk about? Here we go. I'm fucking wicked intense today. Jeez. Jeez Louises. Jesus Louises. It's weird that there was no videos at this bris that got shot up. That's all I'm saying. I mean, what? I don't know. Oh, Amy was coming up with a funny idea. The he said, she said battle, where it's like a gay black male versus lesbian white woman who's believed. See, that's where we're entering. We're entering a world where the demographics, like the victim Olympics, determines truth, not truth itself. That's you can't comply to that. You can't comply to that. And when talking to my mother, because it was her birthday recently, about our ancestors and our history here in America, how many of their kids died traveling west or homesteading or exploring? How many people died on those ships to get here and for freedom? And they died. That's one reason why I have so much pride in our culture in America, because I have blood relatives who died so that we could speak freely and defend ourselves and be away from the tyranny in Europe. And death was the price of freedom that we're pissing away. These people are now complaining about their airline food as they come here, and that they don't get enough free shit that came from the backs of our ancestors. It's like, oh, we want free school now. We want free health. It's like, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 generations back, even 3. I have many family members that died from hardships to make this world possible. Like babies that would die, toddlers that would die, people that died, literally, that fought in wars. I have relatives that fought in the Revolutionary War against England. I've relatives that fought in the Civil War. Some for the South. If I can keep those names. I'm just joking. And it's like, to have these people act like they just deserve that. It's like, where's our pride? Where's our balls? You know? All right. What was I going to show you?